more than ever, it is time for security professionals, especially the chief officer focused on information security, to rise and take control of the technology. That is what the boards are looking for. I spend so much time with executives, with boards, with chairmen, with CEOs and COOs, and the message is clear. They want simplicity. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, my friends. I hope you know what time it is. It's time to buckle up, get ready for Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house. I will tell you right now, we're entering the second month of 2026, and it's going to be an interesting ride, my friends. I mean, you're looking at what's happening internationally, what's happening locally, what's happening within companies, recession, economics, and everything else. And I will tell you, more than ever, it is time for security professionals, especially the chief officer focused on information security, to rise and take control of the technology. That is what the boards are looking for. I spend so much time with executives, with boards, with chairmen, with CEOs and COOs, and the message is clear. They want simplicity and answers from their chief officers. They want simplicity and answers to the hardest problems when it comes to information security. And we need to make sure we don't get caught on the bandwagon. Because right now, the bandwagon when it comes to technology, which of course the biggest one is AI, is all doom and gloom. I cannot understand the logic that is going on right now. You are basically having individuals in very authoritative positions that have minimal to no real understanding of what the true value and benefit of artificial intelligence is, basically convincing people that it is going to destroy us, that it is going to eliminate us, and to demoralize us. And to me, it is such a harmful, negative message that we as technologists, we as security professionals need to start rising and setting the record straight. It is a powerful tool that, when embraced, can make our lives and our companies better and more efficient. It can increase productivity. It can increase the need for employees because it's going to eliminate mundane tasks that nobody wants to do. To me, AI is what the world needs after COVID. Because let's face it, just being honest, COVID basically caused us to get in isolation, caused us to be lazy, and caused us not to want to work or go into the office. Some people get mad at me. Some people get upset with me. But when I say, give me factual data to prove otherwise, and they can't. Before COVID, we had in-person meetings. People were motivated. People showed up. People wanted to go into work. I don't remember a single meeting before COVID in which people showed up in their pajamas eating a bowl of cereal. But I'll tell you right now, during and after COVID, I am on meetings with clients and customers, and I am just shocked and appalled that it has now become a norm and okay to basically take a meeting on your couch in your pajamas, right? Without really getting ready, right? Just eating and being sloppy. And I'm like, that is not reality. That will be replaced with AI because that is a mundane, repetitive task. However, if we embrace the true inspiration of humanity, that we are much better than that. We are more powerful than anyone gives us credit for. We are the only species out there that can have original thought and creativity and have emotions. The thing that everyone forgets is AI, no matter how good the robots are, can't give a hug. They can't give emotional energy because they don't have a physical heart. And they can't go in and have original thought because they will never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, have a human brain. Electronics and bits and bytes cannot replace human organs. They can't. It's impossible. So we need to go in, and instead of going and saying they're wrong, we need to go in and say, here's the solution. Here's how we go in and utilize AI within our organization. What we do as chief information security officers is we go in and say, okay, what are the key critical jobs in our business? What are areas where we need to cut cost or cost savings? And then what we do is we say, okay, let's not hire. Let's look at people that are doing things that computers can do. And here's what I found 99.9% of the time. The easiest way to tell a job that a computer can do is if a human is frustrated with it, is if they're not satisfied. Because here's the reality. If we are not using our heart and our brain to have emotional thought and creativity, then we are not going in and using our full potential, and we're not going to be happy. But I will tell you, the happiest time I've seen with me and my coworkers, the easiest way, if I see a friend or I see somebody that's down, depressed, and demotivated, give them a challenging project that they're interested in, and you will see within hours, days, and weeks, they'll become a different person. They will all of a sudden become alive, be generated, and enjoy things, because we're all here to fulfill a purpose. And that purpose requires us to use our heart and our brain together in order to be able to solve that problem. Now, you always go, but Eric, you said let data drive decisions, not emotions. Yes, let it drive the decision, but not be the ultimate decision making. So the way I make decisions now is I go in and I say, okay, what data do I need to make that decision? Then I go in and I have my AI bots, my AI agents go in and get me all that data. And then I have it correlate the data into a form that's easy for me to process. Once I have all the data that I need, I then go in and say, okay, who and what is going to be impacted? What is the emotional impact by doing this decision? And then by putting those two together is how I make ultimate business decisions. And if you look at world-class leaders and world-class executives, whether they admit it or not, that's how they make a decision. Making a decision solely on data without any emotional impact to the people involved is what's causing the devastating impact we're seeing now with AI. We're seeing AI going in and recommending that people end their life and giving them specific ways to do that. That is purely data-driven. They're solely basing on the data, and they're not looking at the emotional impact of removing a valuable human from this planet, because computers can't have emotions. They don't have brains and central nervous systems and hearts and all those other factors. So yes, if we allow computers to make decisions that humans should be making, then we are basically going to allow them to eliminate humans, because they will recommend, like they've been doing, that certain humans remove themselves from the planet. Devastating. Shouldn't be allowed. So why are we allowing it? Because no one is giving a solution. The solution is, let's go in and figure out all the areas where data needs to be derived, and let's create agents, AI agents, that securely and ethically gather, correlate that information and data, and then we store that as trade secrets to the company, and we set up the AI agents so they're not allowed to leak that information out to the public. And then, just like databases, when your employees now need to go in and access or gather that data, they can query databases and pull the information. But here's the reality. For a corporation, individuals should not be allowed to be using agents, AI agents. That should be done at an IT level, just like we don't go in at a corporation and let our employees set up AWS servers and store corporate proprietary data. That's insane. It doesn't make any sense. The IT and security department sets up the servers and the applications that individuals need and provide those services. If somebody goes in and needs a word processor, they don't go and download their own copy and license and run it off of central databases where all your corporate data is stored. They use the valid registered version from IT, or IT configures it and sets it up on their system. They go in and use a system where the data is controlled, stored, and protected. And I could go through multiple applications where that's done. But then all of a sudden comes AI applications and we break all the rules. Why is ChatGPT or Grok any different than Word or Excel? They're not. They should be managed and tracked at a corporate level and then controlled and managed the data. Just like the data that's generated from Office products is very often protected, secured, and labeled as trade secrets and not allowed to just be given back. We don't give back the Word documents that our company creates to Microsoft so they can use it, harvest it, and share it with competitors. That's insane. Yet we're doing the same thing with our AI bots, with ChatGPT, with Grok, with any others. We're basically allowing some external entity to gather and harvest all of that data, correlate it, and analyze it. And we're even seeing this across government. You've had people who are responsible for cybersecurity in the government actually leaking information out to the internet because they were not correctly using these AI products. Why are we treating it any differently? We already have models for setting up applications, storing, protecting, and classifying the data that they produce. So why all of a sudden, when AI became a mainstream tool, did we break all the rules? We need to go in and start controlling and managing them at a central level, and then letting people access that data that they need, not just going in and running rogue searches and leaking out classified information. But once again, everybody is running scared and focused on the problem, and no one's presenting a solution. What if you went in and you presented to the board, here is the current risk of letting everyone use AI agents. Here's why it's illogical and insane. Here's why it's exactly the same as any other application. Here's the model we use there, and here's the recommended model that we use in the organization. Here's the schedule, here's the cost, and here's the critical part. Here's the amount of money you will save by doing this. Because right now, companies are losing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, every single month and every single quarter because their data is being leaked out and used by harmful entities and competitors against them. That is a quantitative number. You can go in and use AI to gather that data for you. Then you go in and you show that cost savings. So if now you can go in and show, because right now, 80% of your workforce, 5,000 employees, all have their own personal version of some AI product installed. There's no control, there's no protection. It's all being leaked out to the internet. And minimal is going to cost $500,000 a month when that information gets compromised and harmful. It's basically you don't need data breaches anymore. We're automatically causing our own data breach. What if by spending $50K a month, $75K a month, even $100K a month, you're still saving $400K? And by the way, those are conservative numbers. With a lot of our clients that we're doing this for, we're saving them on average $1 to $2 million a month. Now, notice what we're doing here. We're following our golden rule of cyber, which is if cybersecurity gets in the way of the business, cybersecurity is wrong. So now we're not getting in the way. I'm not going in and saying, don't do it. I'm going in the way and saying, the way you are currently doing it is costing the business X. I'm proposing a solution that saves the company 3/4 of X. Once again, how could they pass it up? And by the way, if they say no, a couple things. One, are you sure they understood what you were saying? Are you sure your numbers are accurate and correct? And are you sure you presented it correctly? And if not, and they truly understand, they truly recognize the numbers are accurate and correct, and they're still going to ignore the problem, you need to be looking for another job, because that company is going to be out of business very quickly. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're going in and losing $500 to $1 million, and that's a conservative number, every single month to AI, that number is going to only get worse. And at some point, it's going to bankrupt the business. So if you have an executive team that is not willing to listen to factual, accurate information with the real solution, unfortunately, the success of that company is not looking very good right now. So that's the trick. Notice, we're focusing on solution and we're focusing in on simplicity. How much simpler can you make it? Where we're giving solutions of controlling and managing. We're using analogies with a model they understand. They understand Microsoft Word and Excel. This is just another application, just as good and powerful as those applications. So why are we not treating it the same way? And I will tell you, it's because there's no one that's taking leadership on that front. People are either not informed, which now you are, or they're scared and nobody wants to address the issue. The other issue is there's a huge fragmentation within the organization. Right now, in many companies, there's no CTO, or the CTO is buried and not allowed to have a voice at the table. And everyone is assuming it's the CIO. Chief information officers are not advocates of new technology. They're not advocates of advancing or protecting data or information. CIOs are focused on one thing, my friend: availability and uptime. That is it. Now, yes, some really good CIOs are trying to broaden it, but here's the reality. Ask any CIO what their metric is. One of the reasons why CIOs are so successful is because they have a very clear-cut metric. Their metric is uptime availability. If you go in and ask any CIO, they will tell you at most companies it's 5 nines, 99.999% uptime availability. If they provide that, they get bonused, they get promoted, and they're considered a world-class CIO. Now, let me ask you a question. If they go in and they start putting in new advanced technology on their network that's using up bandwidth, that's using up servers, that increases their ability of downtime. That decreases their chance of success. So they're not going to want that. They would much rather have individuals put AI on all their computers, crash their computers. They don't care, because their uptime availability is for the corporate network and servers. So they're almost adverse to those types of solutions. Also, crazy thing, if there's a data breach, Does that impact traditionally uptime availability? No. When data breaches happen and cybersecurity issues occur, I've never seen a CIO get fired. It's the CISO that gets fired, which means we need innovators. And here's the reality: CTOs are not really key positions. CIOs are focused on availability, and it's really now becoming the CISO. The CISO really has under them CIO and CTO, the innovators of technology and companies, because it all revolves around data protection and security, is really now that CISO. That CISO is part chief officer, part information security, part information officer, and part technology officer. Those are the CISOs that are excelling and winning at this game, because no one else is willing to address the problem, and no one else has the capability in their organization to invoke change, invoke methods that protect the data, and that also balance availability. So yes, world-class CISOs have to go in and balance confidentiality, integrity, availability, and innovation. That's how they're successful. They're not focused solely on confidentiality. And unlike a CIO, they're not focused solely on availability. They need to embrace all of those and give solutions. And once again, what I'm talking about here is specific to AI, but I want to take you back to how CISOs win. The way CISOs win is you go into the boardroom and you might have one or two preliminary charts, just making sure everyone understands the threat vector to your industry and the vulnerability specific to your company. But the magical third slide is a chart with 4 columns. What could happen, likelihood of occurring, cost if it occurs, and cost to fix it. And then you typically have the top 5 risks. Now notice, I said what could happen because that's a business term. Risk is getting more business focused, but not in the way that we traditionally use it in security. So it's really, what are the risks that could happen, likelihood of occurrence, cost if it occurs, and cost to run business. Cost to fix it. Why does that work? Because that's how businesses are run. What puts me in a unique position is I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a CEO, and I'm a cybersecurity professional. So I understand and know how to run a business. I bought and sold businesses. I've sold businesses to Lockheed Martin, to smaller entities, and I understand how they think and operate. All they want to know is what could impact revenue and profit, what can impact the reputation and the ability to win and grow new contracts, win new contracts and grow the company. And it all comes down to the likelihood of something occurring, the cost if it occurs, and the cost to fix it. Simplicity, problem solving. Now, if you go in and you spend all your time making sure they understand that and are aligned with that, now, if they're good business people, they will typically schedule out and fix those. If you're a really good CISO, guess what? That should be what's in your budget. So if I go in and I look at your security roadmap for this year, if you give me your budget for 2026 as a CISO and the roadmap of how you're going to spend that money, and I then go in and develop that chart that says what could happen, likelihood of occurrence, cost if it occurs, and cost to fix it, that last column of what I'm going to do to fix it should actually align perfectly with your security roadmap. That's how you know you're a world-class CISO. That's how you know you're aligned with the risks, the threats, and the vulnerabilities. Now, if I go into an organization and I look at their budget and their roadmap and where their top risks are to the company, and none of them are currently being addressed in any way, shape, or form, that's problematic. That's a huge, huge misalignment. Now, there might be strategic reasons of why that needs to be done, for example, compliance or others, but here's the reality. If you're doing compliance correctly and you're prioritizing it properly, it should be fixing the top risk to the organization first and the secondary risks later. It's one of those where it's sort of the 80-20 rule. If I'm going in and need to be compliant with regulations or with contracts or with other factors or delivered to customers. If I'm going in and I'm fixing 80%, that should go in. Sorry. If I'm going in and spending 20% of my energy, that should be fixing 80% of the high priority items. The 20% that's not there, that's going to take 80% of the effort, are low priority items. And the question is, do we really need to do that? Or let's get creative so we can do it quick and faster and better and not spend as much money on those issues. So that's your assignment for this week. If you haven't put together an AI presentation for the board, that needs to be done ASAP. And I want you to do this exercise. Look at your security roadmap for 2026 and your budget on where you're spending your money. Look at the top 5 risks to your organization and see how they're aligned. If they're not, then you need to start going in and redesigning and refixing the problem. As always, I'm here to teach you for free, but if I can help you in any way, shape, or form, if you need an extra set of eyes, you need somebody to brief the executive board, you need somebody to help you build out a roadmap, email me at ecole@secure-anchor.com, because that's why I'm here, to make cyberspace a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.